Back in the 1970s, Pam Grier starred in a series of very popular action-adventure flicks, such as Foxy Brown, Coffee, and Sheba Baby. One of her biggest fans at the time was a kid named Quentin Tarantino, who grew up to be a famous filmmaker and wrote the title role of his latest film just for her. The film is Jackie Brown. It's a big hit. As a matter of fact, Pamela Grier has recently been nominated for a Golden Globe Award as Best Actress, and I'm pleased to welcome her to CBS, and thanks for coming in. I've read many articles about this picture and about you and about Robert Forster, who's in the picture, and Quentin Tarantino. So wonderful. How are you with this word comeback?
Oh, it's fine with
Is it okay?
Tom, guess what? I guess it means I was big once.
Yeah?
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. And often when I would find a good body of work, it would be maybe one every 4 years.
Okay.
Not 4 times a year. So that's fine with me. But you know, when you don't have a lot of choices, I would go off and do plays. I did great theater. I did Fool for Love by Sam Shepard, and I put on 80 pounds to do Frankie John and Claire de Lune. So I was really honing my skills, just waiting for
I mean, okay, but then you've been doing stuff since those so-called Blaxploitation pictures of the 70s. You've been busy. It just hasn't been on this big hype scale that we're having right now.
They're not as visible.
Gotcha.
You know, the theater is different than, you know, blockbuster films.
And what else from the 70s is coming back? Bell-bottoms? Hip huggers?
Yeah, and crack heels. You know, every time you bend over, you know, you're mooning everybody. The big afros, a lot of the music, and I guess a lot of the energy of the 70s. You know, because the 70s was a great time of exploration and adventure. Because I think, as you know, you're one of my idols. You know everything.
Oh, come on.
Everything, Tom. Yeah. Well, it was. You had the political rewards of the 50s and 60s. So in the 70s, we had the women's movement, burning the bras, shortening the skirts. We had Playgirl magazine that folded out and to the side. We had just a huge time of freedoms. And it was a drug culture. People running naked through Woodstock. You know, everyone, nudity was so interesting. So now we got very rigid in the 80s, and now we're reaching back to the 70s to see what was so interesting.
Yeah, and let me ask you here about these pictures that you made in the 1970s, because in my introduction to you, they showed a montage of pictures, you know, when you did those films in the 70s. Many people now look back on those films and they criticize them as saying, well, they exploited black actors, they worked for low wages, they were made by white people.
And they were the only ones? Okay, duh.
But what's your view on those pictures?
Well, for me, they basically exemplified Afrocentric pop culture. All phases, religious, spiritual, art, profanity, community, you know, what was going on, that's what it was about. And it was a time where, I think the term was coined, basically, to say that it was a film for the black audience. And I remember...
And probably a lot of black people went to those films and enjoyed seeing them very, very much.
So. And a lot of the crew members, I mean, came aboard and joined the unions and were inspired by this movement of filmmaking. And then you had, it depended on your political agenda. Now, you could say it was a black film for black people produced by whites, and they got all the money. Another agenda. And then the films that were produced by blacks, for blacks, with black-themed stories, that was thrown in. So, you know, what's a blaxploitation film? And for me, I think it was every year, everyone was basically sticking with the same formula. And the films began to get very redundant. And we were
the same themes over and over again.
We were boring the very audience that we built. And they were coming to me, and Tom, they were saying, why can't you do something different? I mean, we really like what you're doing. Yeah. But, you know, they knew about the black westerns and black cowboys and other figures.
Let's do a western, let's do a murder mystery, and let's do all...
historical figures. And they said, what? Well, and I would go to the producer and say, well, have you ever thought of doing, you know, putting in something different? Yeah. Because the audiences, they are telling me that we are boring them. And they said, no, let's stick with it. If it ain't, you know, broke, don't fix it. Right. To make money, keep churning it. I said, well, you know, we're boring a lot of people, and they're going to stop coming. Number one, they don't have the disposable dollars to come see a movie 3 or 4 times, the same one. So we're going to lose them. And they said, oh, no. Well, within months, they started not going. And if they continued to go, they'd be making them today.
Oh, sure. Oh,
but
sure.
they bored everybody. There was the same formula. So I just decided to move on. If I'm going to stay in the business, I need to get serious about my acting. It's not for tuition anymore. It's for the craft, if that's what I'm going to be.
So, end of that kind of movie for Pam.
For
Grier.
me.
Let me ask you here about how your film career got started. And reading about you this afternoon, when you were 17, living in Colorado, as I recall, you enter a beauty contest. And in one of these beauty pageants, somebody notices you. Somebody sees something in you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and so you moved to Los Angeles.
Not right away.
No, but sooner or later you moved to Los Angeles with an eye towards going to school, going to film school or acting school or theatrical.
I really didn't even know. I was a pre-med dropout, and the late David Baumgarten, who was the president of the Agency for the Performing Arts, he thought I had something very, very interesting. And I was, well, I could talk and I could communicate, but I didn't have a lot of self-esteem because I didn't know I was like supposed to be a beautiful woman. I just thought I was very boring, very average. And
why would you think that?
Because in my family, we were taught not to see one person as more attractive than another person. If your eyes worked, you could see. If your nose and your mouth worked, you were great. So I think it was so we wouldn't have dissension in the family. And in our family, we
But certainly when you looked in the mirror, you knew that you looked okay.
Well, okay, but not pretty. I didn't wear eyelashes or makeup, and I was told that I wasn't pretty in my family. None of us were.
They lied to you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And it was my grandmother. She just didn't want to create dissension among the kids, the siblings, because some are very light-skinned and some are very dark-skinned. And then growing up in the 50s and 60s, a light-skinned child was more attractive than a black-skinned child. Gotcha. And that was like so bizarre in our family. So she just wanted to keep it very neutral. So I entered this pageant for tuition and to, create a sense of self. And this wonderful man named David Baumgarten talked to my mom before I got home from the pageant to convince me to come out to California. I said, no, I'm in pre-med, I don't want to go. And I just turned him down for a whole year until I got my heart broken in Denver. And then I didn't want to be there and see.
Now, is there a story about the heartbreaking, or is that?
No, it was dull, it was boring.
Okay.
Only because I just wasn't mature. I didn't want to give up any. You know what I'm talking about.
I got you.
Okay. I just decided to leave and take a chance on, I can only take one class because I was putting myself through school, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to like this, then I give myself 2 years.
What I want to get to here is your film school turned out to be working for Roger Corman at American International Pictures.
Pretty much. So
okay.
I had one of my jobs. I had so many.
All right, let me get to that in a second. I have to take a break here. We're talking with Pam Grier. The picture is called Jackie Brown. It's in theaters now, and we'll be right back with Pam and you on the toll-free as time permits after this break.
What do a stewardess, a gunrunner, a bail bondsman, an ex-con, a federal agent, and a beach bunny have in common? They're all chasing $500,000 in cash.
Man, I ain't getting in this trunk.
You ain't gonna be in here no more than 10 minutes.
I ain't riding in no trunk for no minute.
Jackie Brown, rated R. Christmas Day everywhere.
With Pamela Grier, here is Steve on the toll-free in Springfield, Missouri. Hi, Steve. You're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm okay, thanks. How are you? Have you seen Jackie Brown yet, Steve?
Not yet. I want to.
Well, after seeing Pam Grier, you certainly do. Say hello to her.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, I was wanting to ask you a question. I saw in a newspaper article a few years ago, Natural Born Killers came out about a kid who actually shaved his head like Woody Harrelson and committed those crimes. What are your feelings on violence in movies such as Jackie Brown and Natural Born Killers influencing children to go out and commit these crimes?
Well, in Jackie Brown, there's very, very, very little amount of violence. Natural Born Killers is the antithesis of Jackie Brown as far as violence. However, often films and stories are based on life. I mean, who's going to say life imitates art, art imitates life? Right. But it's up to the individual who hopefully has some mental control of themselves. I mean, you're going to see an art form. You're not going to see a political agenda that tells you how to live your life. Hopefully you will understand that theory. But if someone is that immature to go to a film and be inspired to go out and kill someone, then that's not an artistic problem. That's more of a political, maybe a social, maybe a medical problem, and it has to be addressed.
Well, if we want to...
I'm a big fan of Bob Vila, This Old House, PBS.
Yeah, people aren't building houses at 5th and 49th in New York
Animal
City.
Planet. I watch all the time, so it's up to your individual taste.
We're an Animal Planet, really.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, it is.
And of course, Bob Vila's,
This Old House, sure.
And the other shows about home building. But
Do you watch the TV Food Channel where they cook at all?
Yes, and I get hungry and I'll go to the refrigerator and I'm cooking. I turn on the TV in the kitchen.
That's right.
Yeah, but often I don't, because I'll watch a lot of the scientific programs where they have surgery. You know, I'm fascinated by that. So it's up to the individual and their interests.